The night of June 5th, 1944, was colder than most of the men expected. Inside, thousands of landing craft scattered across the dark waters of the English Channel. Young American soldiers sat shoulder to shoulder in silence. The engines roared, the sea slammed against the metal hulls, and the smell of fuel mixed with fear and vomit. Some men clutched letters from home. Others stared into nothing, their minds already far from that night. They all knew this moment would come. They just didn't know if they would survive it. For years, the United States had prepared for this single day. Factories worked without pause. Entire divisions were trained, shipped overseas, and drilled endlessly. And while America prepared, Germany waited. They knew an invasion was coming. They simply didn't know where. And that uncertainty would prove fatal. In the months leading up to June 1944, the Allies executed one of the greatest deceptions in military history. Fake radio traffic filled the air. Inflatable tanks and wooden aircraft were positioned in southern England. A phantom army was created on paper and in photographs, placed opposite the French coast of Calais. And to sell the lie completely, command of this non-existent force was given to a man the Germans deeply respected and feared, General George S. Patton. The Germans were convinced Calais would be the landing site, so when the invasion came somewhere else, they were caught looking in the wrong direction. Shortly after midnight on June 6th, the sky over France erupted. More than 2,200 American and British bombers crossed the coast of Normandy, targeting bridges, railways, roads, and coastal defenses. The intention was clear: isolate the battlefield and soften German positions before the landings. But nature intervened. Heavy cloud cover obscured targets. Many bombs missed their marks. Bunkers, pillboxes, and gun emplacements remained intact. The defenses the Americans would soon face were still very much alive. Then came the men who went in first. At around 1:30 a.m., American paratroopers from the 101st and 82nd Airborne Divisions jumped into darkness behind enemy lines. Their mission was critical: secure bridges, block German reinforcements, and sow confusion before the beach landings began. The drop was chaos. Strong winds scattered aircraft. Anti-aircraft fire lit the sky. Paratroopers were dropped miles from their intended zones. Some landed in flooded field deliberately created by the Germans and drowned under the weight of their gear. Others hit the ground at deadly angles and died instantly. Those who survived found themselves alone, lost, surrounded by enemy territory with no clear sense of direction. And yet they fought. Small groups formed out of necessity, men from different units, different regiments, sometimes meeting for the first time in the dark. They destroyed communications lines, ambushed German patrols, seized crossroads, and blew up bridges. Every hour they delayed German response was another hour bought for the men coming ashore. While this was happening inland, the greatest armada in history moved toward the coast. Thousands of ships, transports, destroyers, cruisers, and battleships cut through the channel. Minesweepers cleared narrow corridors through deadly waters. By 5:30 a.m., American and Allied battleships opened fire, their massive guns shaking the sea as shells slammed into German positions along the coast. At dawn, the men in the landing craft could finally see France, and they realized what waited for them. At 6:30 a.m., the ramps dropped at Utah Beach. American soldiers of the 4th Infantry Division ran forward into gunfire and explosions. The landing went better than expected, thanks in part to currents that carried them away from the most heavily defended areas. Engineers moved quickly, clearing obstacles and mines so tanks and vehicles could follow. By the end of the day, over 21,000 Americans were ashore at Utah, at a cost of fewer than 200 lives. But Utah was the exception. At Omaha Beach, hell opened its jaws. The beach was narrow. The bluffs were high. German positions dominated every approach. Machine guns, mortars, and artillery poured fire onto the Americans as they approached. Landing craft were hit before reaching shore. Men were cut down as ramps opened. Others drowned under the weight of nearly 25 kilograms of equipment, dragged beneath the waves before they could even fire a shot. Those who made it to the sand found almost no cover. For hundreds of meters, the beach offered nothing but death. German fire swept the shoreline with brutal efficiency. Officers were killed trying to organize their men. Entire units were pinned down, bleeding, confused, terrified. Within the first 6 hours, nearly 2,000 American soldiers were dead at Omaha. For a moment, it looked like the invasion might fail right there, but it didn't. Small acts of courage began to change everything. A handful of men moved when others couldn't. A machine gun nest was silenced here, a bunker destroyed there. Rangers scaled the cliffs under fire at Pointe du Hoc, only to discover the massive guns they expected to face had already been moved inland. But they held the position anyway. Slowly, painfully, the Americans pushed forward. No grand strategy, no perfect coordination, just determination. By late morning, small groups had reached the high ground above Omaha. For the first time, German defenders were being attacked from angles they hadn't expected. The impossible was becoming possible. While American soldiers fought and died on the beaches, the German high command was paralyzed. Reports of airborne landings and beach assaults arrived early in the morning, but Adolf Hitler was asleep. By the time he was informed, hours had been lost, and when he finally reacted, he dismissed the invasion as a diversion. He believed the real attack would still come at Calais. Because of that belief, powerful German panzer divisions remained stationary. The armored counterattack that could have crushed the fragile American beachheads never came. Not that day. That mistake sealed Germany's fate. By nightfall on June 6th, nearly 160,000 Allied soldiers were on French soil. More than 4,500 Allied troops were dead, thousands more wounded. American units were exhausted, shattered, and grieving. But they held the beaches. D-Day did not end the war, but it ended any chance that Nazi Germany could win it. From that day forward, the road to Berlin was open, paid for in blood by young men who stepped onto foreign sand, knowing they might never leave it again. On June 6, 1944, America did not conquer Normandy in a single day, but it proved something far more important. When faced with overwhelming fire, fear, and loss, it did not turn back, and the world was never the same.